I'm taking a page out of Dr. Stevens' book. Dr. Stevens always had the alarm that went off. So I thought, oh, I have to do that. So we know it is 7 a.m. Marty, I just put in the Zoom chat. I don't know if you can hear us, but the first suggestion is to sign off Zoom and re-sign on again, or even shut down and shut back on again, or use a different device if you have. I know you've been back and forth between your phone and your laptop. Okay, we'll get back to housekeeping later, but this meeting I'd love to call to order. It is now 7:00 a.m. and happy Thursday. We get one more day of beautiful 80-degree weather before the fall is fully here, I think. I'd like to get an inspiration for us all if Jill is ready for her inspiration to start us off. Great, they're getting situated. And then go ahead and unmute yourselves. And the floor is yours, Jill.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. Just an aside, I will be just leaving the broadcast after this so I can go over and take care of Dad. Anyhow, my inspiration is that on this wonderful, beautiful day, when we could all be outside, some of us will be stuck inside doing things. Even working from home, you're stuck inside. Let's make the most of today in all of our learning opportunities as well as working opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. We'll make the most of today. Let us please say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Any announcements? All right. Well, I would love to hand over the meeting now to Mike Florio. Mike, as our Toastmaster today.
Thanks, Kate. Welcome to my commute. I am now ready for my job. I won't stand up. I'll spare you that. Okay. But that's about how simple it is nowadays. Close to 40% of Americans can work from home. But there are really only about 5% of jobs that can be of people that work from remotely. Before COVID, there were 30 million people that worked from home. And now there are 300 million, 10 times that. And I'm one of those people that has now become a permanent work from home. So that means my office is closed. I call it the museum. And it's been a kind of a wild ride. It's strange. It has its good points and its bad points. So this morning I'll be going over some of the disadvantages and advantages of working from home, because it's been 3 years, over 3 years. And I could say now that I'm not an expert, but I've learned a few things and I'll share them with you today. And kind of some of them are funny and some of them are not so funny. But before we do that, we have to go through some of our job holders. I think we'll start with Katie. What's our word of the day? Beth. No,
That's Beth.
yeah, Beth, sorry.
I was like, I'm the word master 2 weeks in a row and I'm unprepared.
I'm
I
sorry.
thought I was an evaluator.
I looked down, I saw Banks. I must forget.
Hi, Mike. Our word of the day I felt was appropriate for working from home is discipline. You do have to have discipline in order to work from home. I will put the word in the chat with a couple of different definitions, very similar. Thank you very much.
Thank
I
you
will
very
also be doing the Master Grammarian. Hopefully, I'll be able to keep track of the word discipline and what grammar we're using and how many times we are adding those filler words that aren't really necessary. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Quote Master, do I see Sylvia out there? I do not. We have quite a thin crowd this morning.
It dropped out
Dropped out.
on the agenda. Yeah, nobody in there.
Well, you know what? Let's go to Carol Ann as the jester.
I have a quote.
You have a quote, Phil? Come on. Bring it on.
Bring it on. All
Thank
right.
you.
I gotta look it up here first. All right. This is a little bit of informational for sure, inspirational as well. It comes from a Dr. Kevin Elko. I've heard him speak. He also is the motivational speaker for the University of Alabama football team when they won their national championships. And he is quite the guy. This comes from his tips to stay out of the duck pond at work and at home. I'm going to read, there's 10 of them, but I'm only going to read one, the first one, because that says it all. Take responsibility. It is the ultimate way to disarm anger and regain power and control of the situation. Dr. Kevin Elko, motivational speaker. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Phil, for filling in there. I appreciate it. Let's go to our jester this morning, Carol Ann.
Okay, good morning.
Just for us this morning. Good morning.
Working from home means finding out which meetings could have been emails after all. 9 a.m. Time to change from my night PJs into my day PJs. Just kissed my husband intimately on the back of his neck as I walked past him while he was working from home. He started this job on Monday. I thought he was watching a video. He was on a meeting with the CEO. While working at home, I told a joke on Zoom call. No one laughed. Turns out I'm not remotely funny. I was on a Zoom meeting and my husband needed to go behind me. So thoughtfully, he crawled to stay out of the camera, which means instead of seeing him walk by in his underwear, my coworkers saw him crawl by in his underwear. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Carol Ann. There are a lot of good ones out there now about that. Appreciate it. Our timer this morning, filling in for Les, is Nancy. Nancy, do you want to explain your roles? Your role?
It is a role. One of the unfortunate things about doing Zoom is that I don't have that handy little notebook and I can never remember what the times are for table topics. Is it 1.5 to 3?
1.5 to 2.
1.5 to 2. Okay, great. Thank you very much. So at 1 minute, I will be showing green. At 1.5 minutes, it will be yellow. And 2 minutes, it will be red. Wrap it up. And for the speakers, I think there are usually 5 to 7 minutes unless I hear otherwise.
And we do have an otherwise this morning, that's for sure, and that is Marty's speech.
Oh, that's great.
So we may only have one speaker this morning, just so you know. So that'll be an easy one for you.
And if Marty could let me know what his time is, I would
It
be.
is 18 to 22 minutes, just so you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's
Nancy,
Yes.
Nancy, for the sake of time, I'm trying to narrow it down as close as I can to 18 minutes, and I should be able to do that. So 18, 19, and 20. And I'm going to try, like I said, to wrap things up at 18, the minimum, okay? For the
yeah.
sake
All
of
I
right.
time.
think you'll be the only
Thank you.
speaker, Marty. So you've got the floor. You can take your time
Okay.
if you need it. Okay,
Thank you.
just so you know.
Thanks.
Thank you, Nancy. Let's move on to our quiz master for the day, Stephen Smith.
There we go. Good morning. My job today is to pay attention. I'll be listening for all these little interesting nuggets, and then I will be quizzing you to see if you are paying attention. And I will do that when I'm called upon later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve. And I would be remiss if I did not include my general evaluator, Mr. Mark Campos. Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters, good morning. My job as general evaluator is to evaluate the meeting as a whole, as well as the job of the single evaluator today, Mr. Toastmaster.
I wonder who will win. I wonder who will win the speech, and I wonder who will win the best evaluator. It's very intense. So as I said earlier, 300 million people, that's a lot of people that work from home. And I'm one of those, and there are positives and there are negatives. First, I'll go through some of the positives. Flexibility of schedule, right? I mean, you can kind of work around things from home. It's not that 9 to 5 anymore. Wake up in the morning, get a shower, get in the car and go. Now, there are people that just can't do this, right? I mean, if you're working outside and you've got a job that's physically labor intensive, then you can't, there's no way you could do something like this. And you have to show up. But now I work in an office, and I have for years, and now this has granted me the flexibility to kind of move around and do what I have to. The second thing is that you can customize your environment. I have it kind of the way I want it every morning right here. Food's right there, coffee's right there, the best one I like. Number 3, cozy atmosphere, cozy clothes. You just saw this morning. Okay, I was kidding around. That's kind of not necessarily the way I always get ready, but there are times when I have to, quickly make a Zoom call and just make sure that, okay, no nose hairs out of place or anything like that, and I'm ready to go. It's easier to make calls with people. There's no distractions from people in your office. So the office I came from, there were 40 people that worked in that office. So there were constantly people coming in and out of my office, asking questions, just wanting to shoot the breeze, blah, blah, blah. But now it's pretty quiet. My wife comes in every once in a while and cooks me dinner. I only had to call HR on her twice. Okay, once was the vacuum, and they said, "Oh, you're crazy. What are you doing calling HR?" And I go, "No." All right, so I backed off a little bit, but I told her, this can't keep going on. And then you can do the other thing that I really love about working from home is that you can do weekend projects. You can get them started pretty early, right? I mean, I mowed the lawn. I'll tell you guys, I mowed the lawn yesterday at lunch hour. I got it done, no problem. I actually washed my car a couple of times this year myself, not the car wash. I went out there and I washed the car. Now, it didn't last very long, but I did it myself. And number 6, there's no office distractions. There's not people, boss looking over your shoulder. It's pretty chilled here. So I'll go over some more of the positives afterwards, and some of the negatives. But for now, I want to give the floor to Dr. Gerald Stevens. He is our table topics master for this morning, and have at it.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. A few questions for you all here related to work. Dreaded 4-letter word, work. Kate Orr. What was your first job, and did you love or hate it? I just thought.
My first job, and did I love or hate it? Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. My mother was an excellent disciplinarian for all of us kids. You're getting a job at 16 and earlier if possible. No, in some ways, I felt obviously as like every other child, work, discipline. Why do I want to face that? I'm so grateful for that foundation that my mom, especially more so than my dad, I think, really instilled in us for a work ethic. And I think that because there's so many farms around and babysitting opportunities and all of those things, I know I started before I was 16, and now I'm feeling very foggy where my actual first job was. I had so many sprinkled into the summer times as a teenager, and I think it was at Bear's ice cream stand, if I remember correctly. And I ended up working there, and then my younger sisters both ended up working there. It's a little ice cream stand they retired now, but it was a cutest little place down near Margot, actually, across the street. They have a beautiful Bear's berry patch because they have a farm, and they started an ice cream stand, and we're open for about 20 years, and it's closed now. But it was a cute little place. Nestled out in Appleton. And I remember I put in an application the year after they opened, and I didn't get a call. And mom said, well, you should call them, just call to check. And I didn't want to. And I thought, no, they'll call me back if they want, but I'll listen to my mom. And I called back and they said, oh, can you come tomorrow? So it was such a good idea for mom to encourage me. And then I listened to her and did that. And that was some great friendships built over the years of working there. And it started probably many years of working in restaurants and other things. And I will say that was the cleanest place I've ever worked at. It was very disciplined. If it were still open, I would say we should take a field trip. Anyway, thank you so much, Mr. Table Topics.
Thank you, Kate. Our next table topics participant will be David. David, what is your favorite job of all time? And don't be biased because your boss is on the line. Favorite job of all time?
It seems, Mr. Table Topics Master, that I'm now in my post-retirement career as a person who pours taste of wine and interacts with people who like to drink wine, that it took me forever, but I finally found my niche at Margin Manor. Before that, a job that I enjoyed was selling radio advertising for WJJL Radio in Niagara Falls. I don't know how many of you remember Barry Lillis, but Barry Lillis worked there at the time. And whenever I would hit a rough spot, Barry would say, Dave has to find his niche. Well, it took forever, Barry, but I found my niche. I also discovered that all these old radio personalities meet every Saturday morning at Panera's in Williamsville, and maybe someday I'll get up and go to it and thank Barry or reassure him that I've indeed found my niche. But my first job was Licata Cigar Store. I was about
in sixth grade, and it was wonderful because we're right across from Harrison's main plant, and I worked the soda bar. So I started out behind the bar, and I'm still behind the bar. But the characters that would come in from the main plant, especially the rank and file assembly line workers, we had some real incredible characters that I got to interact with. And it was there that I found out that I had a quick wit, and sometimes it was too quick for a young sixth grader. But I was kind of their mascot, and they didn't mind the moments where I did not demonstrate discipline. They didn't get upset with me. But that some wonderful memories of Licata Cigar Store. And then from Licata Cigar Store sprang Licata Brother Wholesale, Licata Vending, Licata this, Licata that. So many of us in the Licata family have warm memories of the cigar store because that all got started after World War II. And I became a part of that tradition in the early 60s. But any job where I have to interact with people, any job where I might make a person laugh, I'm pretty happy. That's the way I feel about it, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Dave. Our next table topics participant will be Margot. Margot.
Margot is an evaluator this morning, sir.
Okay, well, there's only a few of you around. I can pick someone else. Steve, I know you got a job probably too. Everybody does.
There's Eric. Eric, do you have a job?
No.
Is he in? Okay, great. Sometimes he's in, sometimes he's out. Great, Eric. What was the job you disliked the most? Job you disliked the most, Eric?
Does my current job count? No, I'm just kidding.
It does.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. I really have a couple jobs that I really did not like. The one was working at Elderwood. I know that I worked with my mother and I know that I nagged her a lot, but besides that, the work environment was pretty rough in retrospect because I worked in behind the laundry room doing the separation of the dirty linen. I don't want to ruin everybody's breakfast, but it was disgusting. And you're trying to really push every dirty linen into the washer machines. We had 3 washers and 4 dryers, and you're putting every stinky washcloths, towels, bed sheets, everything into that washer, and it was so disgusting. I really had to discipline myself because the smell of it, even through the mask that I was wearing, was so like, you want to throw up. But we had a guy who on the first day was working, and he was coming off of smoking. He was on a nicotine patch, and he was not feeling good. So we were, delivering the carts to the upstairs units, and then I, let him off on the first floor, went to the nursing supervisor, and then he left and never came back. So that was one of the most important things that was not funny. It was disgusting. But that was one of the not so fun part of my career. And if we're Canisius, that's even another hole in the dirt that I will not go into, maybe a speech, maybe. But since I'm wearing the shirt, maybe I'll just highlight this or something like that. But anyway, that's one of my least favorite jobs, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Eric. Can I have a Word Masters report? I believe it's Kate.
It's Beth. It's the original.
Yeah.
It's Beth. It's Beth. Sorry. Mike sent me astray.
In terms of using the word, All three of our candidates qualified. Kate used it twice. Dave snuck it in at the end, and Eric also used it. So discipline is working for table topics. The rest of you need to, step it up a little and use this word. Thanks.
I definitely need a little more discipline in regards to using the word, Beth. In regards to our timing, Nancy, how did we do?
Well, it takes discipline to pay attention to what somebody is saying and to watch the clock. Kate qualified at 2:09. Dave, unfortunately, his discipline in the area of chatting is a little bit in need of repair. He went over with 2:46, and Eric disciplined himself to speak at 2:07. So it looks like Kate and Eric qualified.
Thank you so much. At this point, I'd like to turn the meeting back over to our Toastmaster, Mike Florio.
Thank you, Dr. Gerald Stevens. Wonderful job. Thanks again. Appreciate it. Took care of the word and the time. Now, willpower is one of the things that it's not all rosy working from home. You have to have the willpower. So a lot of people, when they work from home, they can get hooked on their Netflix episodes, and next thing you know, half the day's gone. So when you talk about discipline, I think you definitely have to have some discipline to work from home. It's sticking to a routine, and you have to develop a routine, waking up in the morning, making sure you start, or you're going to falter. You're going to miss meetings, miss important calls, and that's could possibly lead to termination. And nowadays, when you work from home, it's pretty easy to get terminated. I mean, all they really have to do is say, hey, make this Zoom call on Friday, and next thing you know, your boss is telling you to pack your stuff and send in your computer, and you're done. And that is, that's the reality. So it does take discipline, and that's something that you need. Now, sometimes my power naps, I can take little naps now every once in a while, but when my power naps turn into 2-hour naps, then I think I got a little bit of a problem. So, again, we're back to the discipline factor. And the sixth one they talk about here is boredom. It can get boring at home. I mean, you've got to get up and kind of move around, even, because if you're just sitting there waiting at the computer for something to happen at work, 8 hours is quite a while to sit around. So there are downsides. There's no doubt about it. But now let's move on to our speaking portion of the day. I saw Margot walk away, but I will pass it over to Margot to introduce our speaker this morning, Mr. Marty Johnson, DTM. There's Margot. Good morning. You're on mute, Margot.
Trying to unmute. However, somebody was blocking me. Sorry, I had two cats who decided it was time to energize themselves. I would like to point out, though, that I have been working from home for 19 years. The winery, because I live upstairs. Anyway, Marty this morning is going to do something very exciting. He is going to do a speech where he is preparing to speak professionally, according to what I just got off our website. It is a keynote speech. And I know Nancy has his time. So his goal this morning is to present a speech exemplifying a point of view or message that you would convey as a professional level speaker. You may choose to use visual aids. Your speech can be humorous, information, or whatever style supports this topic. So with that, I would like to introduce Marty Johnson, who is one of our shining stars here. our DTM, who has a speech entitled Defining Moment, Marty Johnston.
You're on mute, Marty.
Marty, you're still on mute.
There you
That
go.
was a test of the emergency broadcast system. I am now off mute. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome if we have any guests. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning. This morning, I'm going to tell you about a defining moment in my life and how that defining moment created values in my life and a few areas in my life that those values really hit home. The year was 2010, and I was a participant in the General Clinton Canoe Regatta. The General Clinton Canoe Regatta is a 70-mile endurance canoe race that starts in Cooperstown, New York. Any of you that are baseball fans know that that's the home of the Baseball Hall of Fame. The race starts on Lake Otsego, O-T-S-E-G-O, Lake Otsego in Cooperstown, New York. And it ends in a town called Bainbridge, New York on the Susquehanna River. In doing a little research, I found that not only did I have a defining moment on the Susquehanna River, but in the Revolutionary War in 1778, there was a defining moment in the life and the times of General James Clinton, who the race was named after, and the colonists and many Native Americans. And the event that occurred was called the Cherry Valley Massacre. And what happened, the Native Americans killed 30 innocent women and children during that massacre. General Clinton, what's he to do? He's a general at the time in the area. He gathers his men. They dam up Lake Otsego, which isn't that big of a lake, but within a mile is the start of the Susquehanna River that runs all the way down through Bainbridge, New York, and down towards Pennsylvania. And what they did, they dammed up the lake before it enters the river. And by damming up the lake, they backed up a lot of the water that was in the lake at the time. And then his men broke the dam and floated 200 flatboats down the Susquehanna River and burned the Native American settlements. So that was a defining moment in history for the colonists, General Clinton and his history, and unfortunately for those the Native Americans that lost their lives. 230 some odd years later, I find myself paddling down Lake Otsego, portaging around the dam into the Susquehanna River in the General Clinton Canoe Regatta in 2010. Now, as a participant, I said participant, not participants. I am not crazy, but I paddled the event in what's called a C1, or it's a one-man racing canoe that weighs about 30 pounds. And I had a pit crew person that followed me along the way. His name is Barry Cornelius, a longtime friend, and I paddled the Lockport canoe race with him for many years. And he was my support crew, or pit crew, if you will. And he followed me along the way, and at different bridges and different stops, he would resupply me with energy, food, and drink jugs. And I was having a wonderful day. I was having a wonderful day. I was trained the best I could. It's an early race. It's Memorial Day, so it's hard to get paddling and conditioning in some parts of the Western New York at that time. However, I did it. I disciplined myself. Yes, discipline is very important. The upper half of the race on the Susquehanna River, there are many twists and turns. And if you're not careful, depending on the water level, you can get pushed side to side and you can get thrown up into the bank. And sometimes you can capsize and tip over and submerge, and your day is done. The race is over. However, I was lucky. And the year I paddled the race, the water level was manageable. It was challenging, but it was manageable. And I stayed afloat. I did not tip over. About halfway through the race, there's a lake called Goodyear Lake. And at the end of Goodyear Lake, you have to portage around the hydraulic dam. And I handled that no problem. I actually love getting out of the canoe and jogging with the canoe because I like to jog. And then once you carry down beyond the dam, you put in at the bottom, and all of a sudden you enter a whirlpool. And, if you want to get your thrills and get your adrenaline rush, that's the place to be during the race, because the whirlpool can throw you all over the river. And if you're not careful, you'll get sucked into it like a little drain. But I was able to maneuver through that and everything was good. And then I entered the lower half of the race, is in approximately Oneonta, New York. And there's an old broken dam that I was able to maneuver through it, and there was just enough current. It wasn't too treacherous. I was able to paddle through, no major problem. I was having a wonderful day. Despite a little pain, discomfort, it wasn't sweltering heat, 80 and 90 degree. It was in the mid 70s, so I was well hydrated. I definitely was tired. I was feeling pain, but I was trying to persevere. I was determined to finish the race. I'd done it a number of times in the past, actually with partners in the past, and this was my second or third time paddling it by myself. Mother Nature, however, had a different idea. Mother Nature tends to sometimes throw a little twist into your day or your outing. And Mother Nature did definitely that. I was paddling along, and all of a sudden the sky turned gray, and I started getting pelted on my whole body with hail, and I could hear it hitting my canoe, tap, 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 tap. And I was scared. I was getting cold, and I was definitely scared. Logically, I did the best thing that a logical thinking person at that time could do after being paddling a canoe for approximately 5 hours. I pulled my canoe over to the shore. I pulled it out and I dragged it up between two trees, and I jogged up through the woods and I hitchhiked the ride back to the finish line. And thank God my partner Barry was there. I found him and I immediately told him what happened. And I changed into some dry clothes. I felt much better. I got something to drink, something to eat. And then it dawned on me. I have a choice. I could pack it up and go home, and that would be the end of my day. All that work for nothing and quit. But I'm not a quitter. What did I do? I had my friend Barry drive me back to my canoe. I got in the canoe and I started paddling down the Susquehanna River. Little did I know, I was approximately an hour and a half from the finish. If I decided to quit, what a fool I would have been. I could have floated down the river in 2.5 hours with the current. But instead, I could smell the chicken barbecue. I could get my finisher's patch. And that's exactly what I did. I paddled to the finish. I was within an hour and a half. I could not believe I was that close and I was going to quit. That was definitely a defining moment in my life. I crossed the finish line and I was relieved. I'd finished the race. 3 valuable things that I took away from that event and values that I can relate to other parts of my life are determination, perseverance, and focusing on goals. And I'm going to add another one today, and that is the word of the day, which is discipline. Yes, discipline. That would be one of the 4 values that I learned, but I'm going to just briefly touch on these 3 values. And these values affected 3 portions or 3 roles that I hold in my life. And the 3 roles are as a father, as a brother, and as a son. And the first role that I would like to tell you about is my role as a father and how this defining moment helped me in my role as a father. Many of you know that I have a son, Adam James, who's now 20 years old. And Adam and I actually haven't paddled in the canoe recently, but when he was a kid, I have a fond memory of him paddling in my one-man canoe, the same canoe that I used in the General Regatta, along the canal down in Gasport, and he was singing a song, and I have such fond memory of that. I still have the video. I need to play it once in a while to keep my spirits up and keep me laughing sometimes. Sometimes when I want to cry when I think about the things that teenagers do. But Adam's a good kid, and I wanted to share with him and give him the opportunity that I had. And one of those great opportunities was education. And the education that I was afforded was to go to Catholic school. I graduated from DeSales here in Lockport. I wanted to send my son to Catholic school. So he looked at a couple schools and he decided on Cardinal O'Hara. He went to Cardinal O'Hara, and there were definitely some times that we had to persevere and be determined and focus on goals and what we wanted to achieve, because it was during COVID-19, especially during his senior year. It was a rough time. It was in May of his senior year that I said, Adam, you're going to school next week. He hadn't been to school all year during COVID. I said, Adam, you're going to school next week. You're going. We went to school. I think anyone that was in school and the students missed out on a lot of different things, and mainly socialization with other kids, because as many of you know, Toastmasters know, when you're not in person and your personal contact with people and face-to-face communication and, reaching out to others and learning from others and hearing and seeing and using all your senses, you lose out. And I think my son lost out, but I think in that last month and a half of his senior year, I think he did gain something. And that was the final year of his education at Cardinal O'Hara. And there were some tough times, as I said, during COVID, and then trying to meet the tuition increases. But what we did, we found out that there was a summer work program. We got involved in the summer work program, and that was a great opportunity for me to bond with him. And we did some light maintenance around the school, painting, general maintenance, and those are some life skills that he learned. And he also was able to go to BOCES the other half of the day during the school year, and went to trade school and earned a certificate. And he's a auto service tech in Lockport here. And without the determination and the perseverance and focusing on the goals of getting my son through school, I don't think it would have happened. And I'm very grateful that things fell into place as they did. The second carryover and that defining moment in my life and the value would be as being a brother. Some of you know that I have a brother. He's 4 years younger than me. His name's Dan. And Dan, his kids, I'm sure many of you can relate, whether you're a man or a woman. If you had a sibling or a cousin or relative when you were kids, you would always fight and wrestle. And I was usually on the top of the pile, and I had my brother Dan in a headlock. And it was always, who's the strongest? Who's the strongest? And he'd say, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Let me up. So I would let him up, but I was still the strongest. And as we matured, Dan needed help with his landscape business up in East Amherst in the Clarence area. And I hemmed and hawed about it. And I decided that I would help him. At one point in time, I was helping him full time. And then after I got a job back at Tops, it was just part time. But there were definitely times when my person was tested by working outside in days when it was 90 degrees, cutting lawn, trying to dig an edge around a flower bed when the ground is hard as rock, shoveling in 3 feet of snow. One of the last blizzards we had actually last year. I remember a customer came out, he was of Indian descent, and he said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Tell Dan to get you a snow thrower." I said, "Very good idea. That's on the priority list for next year." But definitely those defining moments from that canoe race in the General Clinton helped me pull through again, and the bonding with my brother and working with him and learning skills and landscaping and design skills. But I was determined, I persevered, and I focused on helping him run a successful landscape business. And the third and last area in my life that I value as a son. Some of you know that my mother passed away last year in 2022. And as all of you have had wonderful mothers, my mother was a wonderful mother. Home cooked meals. I told many of you before, once I said, I said, my mom is the greatest cook in the earth. I don't think I had maybe but one TV dinner or frozen dinner in my life. And then I got a smack in the head. My mother said, "You never had a frozen dinner in your life, young man." And I never did. My mother was a great cook. She was very crafty. I remember in junior high, she made me this wonderful tie. And I still have it 40 years later. She made me a denim, yes, denim book bag in junior high with my initials on it, MJ, and I still have it to this day. My mother was a wonderful person. And when I went to college at Brockport, I was homesick. I was 45 minutes away from home and I was homesick. Go figure that. I was homesick. I missed my mother cooking for me, doing my laundry, loving me as a son, and teaching me her faith. As my mother became ill, these things really hit home. And determination, perseverance, and focus were something that I think she shared also, because my mom helped put me through high school by working on a bingo team and other jobs around the school to help defray the cost of the tuition. And I know that's where I learned and developed that idea for my son. And I was fortunate enough to be able to have the education that I did at DeSales. But I don't think I could have done it, and I don't think my mother could have done it without determination, perseverance, and focusing on the goal of being a good mother for her and for me, saying the last words in front of my family at my mother's funeral as I gave her eulogy. And I practiced my eulogy, and I did it. I was nervous. I told my family and siblings that I would give the eulogy. As many of you have given eulogies for your deceased loved ones, you know how hard of a thing it is. But I felt that that's the least I could do. I didn't do it for my dad. I don't have regrets because my nephew offered to do it. But it was the greatest feeling to have been able to done given my mother's eulogy, and I couldn't have done it without perseverance, determination, and focusing on accomplishing that task. Fellow Toastmasters, the takeaway for you that I hope you get is you don't have to paddle a 70-mile canoe race. You don't have to be in any race, but with determination, perseverance, focusing on your goals, and we can add discipline today, you can accomplish anything in your personal life and in Toastmasters. And I hope I see you do many great things down the road. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you very much. As our only speaker today, that was great. I'll just do a little filler to let Margot work on her evaluation, and let's talk a little bit more about some of the pros and cons of working from home. Zero commute, whether by canoe or by car. There's no commute for me anymore. I go from the bathroom, which is right across the hall, into my office, which pretty easy nowadays. I save a ton of money on gas. I used to drive 45 minutes one way, usually to the office and then back. So now I fill up the tank once every 2 weeks and I'm good to go. That's one of the next ones, is saving money. You save so much money. I used to go out to lunch with my buddies, and now we only do that maybe once a month. We get together and we chit chat and kind of try and catch up on our families and what's going on with some of the friends that I have at work. But now a lot of the people that I deal with are in Atlanta, Texas, California. They're all over the country now. Some of the customer service people that I could just walk down the hall and talk to and chit chat with, I've never met. I have a woman that handles the Boston area for me that I move a lot of material out of recycled material, and I have never met her. Wonderful young woman, 25 years old. I think she lives in Buffalo, but she also has a condo in Florida. Big Bills fan, by the way, but I've never met her. And I've worked very closely with this person now for years. It's kind of strange. Another thing is there's no more crowds or traffic anymore. I'm working from home. I don't have to worry about fighting traffic. So my stress level has come down about 5 or 6 notches at least. There's no doubt about it. My office was off of Transit Road. And so I'd have to go up Transit Road to Sheridan Drive. And I think every single day, both ways, someone would either cut me off or I'd come close to a near-death incident. So it was every day. So all of that now is gone. I mean, okay, so I go down to the local restaurant in Lockport. Lockport, pretty easy place to get around. Not even a problem. And the bottom line, the last but not least, of course, is that I get to spend more time with my family. And it's really, I think I explained this once before, kind of saved me. I was working all the time, traveling all the time, and now I spend a lot more time with my sons, my granddaughter, my wife, and it's been a blessing, really, for me. But there are dangers of working from home, and some of them they're more kind of career related, right? The dangers of working from home. And there's a sense of isolation, right? I mean, when I used to sit every morning with my boss and have coffee in the break room every morning, we talk about really anything, and that was every day. And now my boss lives in Maine and I'm here, and I can honestly say I don't think I've even had a Zoom call with him in 3 weeks. So I think you feel like you're a little bit removed and your career is stagnant. Now, I'm at the end of my career, right? I mean, I'm ready to retire soon. I mean, everybody keeps asking me that, Mike, when are you going to retire? When are you going to retire? I go, well, I'm working from home. I can do this till I'm 70 or 80 if I really wanted to, but I don't know if I really want to. As long as they keep paying me and my computer goes on in the morning when I'm here and I can get dressed, it's pretty good gig. But I think for younger people, there's an issue there. You're not in front of your boss. You're not plugged in as you would be in the office. You don't really see what's going on. You don't have that interaction with everyone. And honestly, it feels sometimes like you're out of sight, out of mind. And for someone younger in their career, just starting out, you want to be socializing as much as you can. And that's kind of the bottom line for me. I feel like I'm a social person. I like people. I like chatting with people, all different types, learning about their lives and everything. And if you're that way, it comes down to the environment that you're in. And that environment is for me a social one. So I almost feel as if I have to go see my friends and meet with them and catch up and chit chat and just talk really about anything they want to. So yeah, and it becomes a life work balance too. You tend to you work more from when you work from home because people feel that you're accessible, and all of a sudden you're getting calls at 6 o'clock in the evening when you could be having dinner, in the pool, playing a little golf, whatever. And all of a sudden you're on a conference call with your boss because there's a problem in New Hampshire or Maine or wherever. So those are some of the pitfalls. But for me, bottom line, pretty good gig right now. And I like it. And I'll be doing it for a while. So with that, let's go over to our only evaluator this morning, and that is Margot. Margot, you want to evaluate Marty for us?
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. And thank you for this time to evaluate Marty. Marty gave us his moments in time. And it was a very interesting way he did it because he started with history. He then went to his own history with the canoe race, and finally how it affected him as his values. So it wasn't just one moment in time. Marty gave us various moments in time. The attributes he brought to us today was number one, he stood up. He looked at the camera. He handled his opening glitches with such humor and grace. It was absolutely fabulous. He used props on his presentation today, which was wonderful as well. And when he started his speech, he took the time to lay the groundwork and set up what he was going to be doing today. And on top of that, he wove in the word of the day more than once. Marty gave us a reflection of an experience that really was a defining moment for him. And he talked about what it took for him to finish the race. And then he took all those attributes and what he learned in that reflection to the wonderful man he is today, how he has determination, perseverance, and focus. And throughout his speech, those words came a number of different times to really beef up what he was speaking about. And in evaluating Marty, being a DTM himself, it gets a little challenging. So here's what I would like to suggest, Marty, to stretch yourself a little bit. I would have liked to see a stronger conclusion. Maybe I go back to during my canoe race, it was determination, perseverance, and focus in my relationships, and then challenge us to take that into the future. Or perhaps you want to say the lessons you learned, that you stuck to the canoe race, the lessons you've learned from the different people in your life, something to make us inspired to want to tell our story. Maybe something to challenge us. But you taught us today a lot of different things, not only how to do a public speak, how to actually do a keynote speech. Because quite frankly, if I was going to a dinner and I knew that was you were going to be the speaker, I'd want to be there. You also taught us how to cope with what life throws our way with grace, with humor, and you found the positive in every situation that you reflect upon us today. So I want to thank you for speaking. I want to thank you for encouraging us to look at the experiences in our life and then make it a more personal experience to share with other people. I appreciate that you took a personal situation and turned it into a global message. And I'd love to hear more from you on this topic in the future, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Margot. Appreciate it. Well, I would throw it over to the timer, but I don't believe that is necessary at this point. So what I will do is I will give the meeting over to our general evaluator this morning, Mr. Mark Campos. Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. With all due respect, Mr. Toastmaster, I'll disagree with you a little bit. I would like to ask our timer, Nancy, for a timer's report. Given that the speaker and evaluator are very accomplished Toastmasters, how did they do time-wise?
I'm trying to unmute you, Mark.
You're there.
Because
You're
our,
there.
our pictures slipped over. Marty and Margot both qualified well within their time.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Nancy. So we know who the winners are today, at least in terms of speakers and evaluators. So let's talk about the meeting as a whole. Mike, I thought you did a very, very good job under challenging circumstances today. As you indicated before the meeting started, you had a lot of people bail out on you last minute. It's always challenging. You took charge of it early before the meeting even began, to try to get all the housekeeping out of the way and figure out how we were going to react to it. So very good job in that regard. You picked a meeting topic that has that general appeal that we can all talk about. Even if you've never worked from home, we're encountering people that are working from home, whether it's friends and family, or when you call into a customer service agent and you hear their dog barking in the background. So it's part of everyday life. And I thought you did a great job covering all the pros and cons of working at home. I've done it myself, and I would agree with you in just about everything that you said, the good, the bad, the ugly that are part of working at home. And I give you a lot of credit. You had good filler material that stretched out the meeting, and I thought it was great, even at the risk of maybe being a little bit repetitive, but how you bought Margot some time so that she could prepare her evaluation. I thought that was very, very well done. In terms of the evaluation, Margot, I was really impressed with your evaluation today. It was a beautifully constructed sandwich, glowing positive feedback, some constructive feedback, and at the risk of me being repetitive, which I often am repetitive, it's a hill I will always die on, that I never want to hear an evaluator use the word but. And I loved that your transition into constructive feedback never had a but, because when you use that but, it just sets the person up for some disappointment of how they fell short, but the way you said it was still encouraging, even though you were giving constructive feedback. And your conclusion to the evaluation, again, glowing, uplifting. I thought it was a really excellent job, Margot. With that, I will move on to calling for reports at this point. Beth Banks, you're the WAG master, but let's go with the AG first. We'll leave the W for last. How did we do in terms of Oz and our grammar today?
Well, some of this is my opinion, and you can use that or not. I was a little concerned with Dave Licata. I believe the word niche was a little overused. Perhaps he could have used a synonym for that. Mike Florio, this is something you already know, but you know, and kind of a little overused there. I did find, oh, Margot, you said once. That was so out of character for you. That is not something you do. But I did love, and Marty, you had a couple us. There were some very good words though that were used. Margot, I love global message. That's really a good one. Marty had quite a few. Treacherous, sweltering heat, persevere, portaging around, maneuver through. These are very visual words. He gave us such a good picture of what he was doing. Mark, I believe you said hill to die on. I've never heard that term. I kind of like that. That was pretty good. Can I move to discipline? No?
You can, it's fine. Go ahead.
I think we started out slow, but we used it quite a bit after. Margot used it, Mike Florio used it, Nancy used it, Marty used it 3 times in his speech. So I think we did very well with the word discipline. That was a good one. Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you very much, Beth. I would next call our quizmaster, Steve Smith. Steve, quiz our knowledge here.
Okay, I will do that. I also want to sneak in the word of the day because it takes a certain amount of discipline to not only enjoy the show, but say, hey, there's a good question and write it down. But I managed to find a few things. Now, early on, when Mike was talking about working at home, what percentage of companies did he say have the ability to offer you the ability to work at home?
Crickets.
Yeah, I caught 5%. I hope that was right. Now, what was Kate's first job?
Bear's Ice Cream Cottage.
cream.
How old was she?
Oh,
16.
16. Very good. Now, who helped Dave when he worked at WJJL Radio?
Barry Lillis.
Barry Lillis.
Yep.
I have a quick story about Barry Lillis, if I can jump ship here for a minute.
yeah, we got
My
tied.
brother's what? My
We
brother.
got tied.
My brother's first wife used to brag about having babysat Barry Lillis when he was a kid, and I thought, yeah, right, she's full of it. So imagine my surprise when at their wedding reception, I look up and in walks Barry Lillis, and I'm thinking, oh, it's true, it's true. And if anybody's paying attention, that's a quote from Blazing Saddles, and I'll leave that one right there. Now, what job did Eric hate the most?
The nursing home laundry.
Right?
How could you
Now,
forget
Marty
that
talked
one?
about Marty talked about being in this canoe race on the Susquehanna River. How heavy was this canoe?
30
30
pounds.
pounds.
30 pounds. And what was his partner's name?
Oh, Cornelius something. I don't know.
Not even close. Barry.
Not Barry Ellis, but Barry.
And Marty talked about his son, Adam. How old is Adam?
20.
20?
And he also talked about his brother. What was his brother's name?
Ooh. Adam.
Daniel.
Dan.
Dan. And what is the relative age?
4
4
years
years
younger.
Very good. Very good. Now, Mike mentioned one of the advantages of working at home is you don't have the commute. How far did he have to drive to work?
45
45
minutes.
45
minutes.
minutes.
45 minutes. And finally, and this is nothing to do with anything, but how many people got caught up in that wonderful 20-minute test yesterday for the Emergency Broadcast Network?
A lot of people.
Caught up.
I don't think it was 20 minutes for me. It
It
went
No.
up.
was. It was 220 to 240 because
Really?
I was stuck with it. I was in the car. Jill was in an appointment, and my phone was just beeping that whole time.
It
Then I
doesn't
looked
do
up-
that if you click OK, Steve.
I did. Oh, I clicked OK and nothing happened. So don't tell me that. I clicked that OK and nothing happened. It just kept beeping.
I turned it off.
I did turn it off, yes.
Then I was surprised the radio was beeping too. Now, earlier in the day, we had just set up this emergency notification network for her dad. So we get alerts if something happened. Now all of a sudden my phone's beeping. I think, oh, wait, something's going on with her dad. And I open it up and see this garbage about an emergency broadcast. And then I said a few more expletives and okay, this is nothing. So I figured somebody else had to be inconvenienced by this garbage the same as I was. Then I couldn't get rid of that screen. I had to shut my phone off to kill that screen that said it was a test.
The world did not end though.
No,
No.
amazingly, it did not. Nor were we told where to turn for official information.
Yeah, if you believe half of what you hear on the internet, that was it. It was doomsday.
Well, don't believe anything you hear and only about half of what you see.
There you go.
And you know who said that?
Uh,
That's my final
P.T.
question. You know who said? No.
P.T. Barnum.
No.
Steve Smith.
Steve Smith.
Besides me. Edgar Allan Poe.
Ooh.
nice.
That is my report for the day. Thank you.
Great job.
Had this been an actual alert, you would have been dead by now.
Hey, thank you very much, Steve. It's tragic that you had to endure 20 minutes of the emergency alert yesterday. I guess I'll close. There's no more job holders to call on, I believe, but I'll just close with my opinions on work at home. In my opinion, the best, there are two optimal situations. Number one, a real hybrid situation where you work at home a few days a week and maybe you go in the office 1 or 2 days. I'll let you in on a little secret. Theoretically, we're doing that at my company, but I'm not sure how much those people are actually in the office. And when you're working at home at least a few days a week, always have it on a Friday. It works out very well as you flow right into the weekend. And maybe just as good as that is the real short commute. If you've got a short commute, that's a great situation because it's not so much of a burden to get to and from work. My biggest downfall I found working at home is sometimes your day can just creep later and later and later and later where you don't know when to pull the plug necessarily. Whereas in the office, whether it be you're trying to avoid traffic or you've got to get home for something, you're a little more likely to say, I'm done at this time. Just one Toastmasters opinion on work at home. With that, I will turn control of the meeting over to our presiding officer to announce the winners and close the meeting. Kate.
Thank you so much, Mr. General Evaluator today. I would like to offer up a toast. That's something I didn't see. I saw a lot of drinking coffee happening. We do that when we're working from home in our screens and otherwise. Cheers to you all,
Cheers.
wherever you are, home, office, etc. Thank you for making today a good meeting. I know it was light attendance and we say that, but sometimes that happens. We're a lot bigger than some clubs, but we still have room for improvement. And it was good to kind of clear out the cobwebs and remember the mute and the unmute and practice that, because this is not going away. And we still are meeting in person. And I'm going to announce, I suppose we know, hooray, great evaluation by Margot. Bravo, top evaluation of the day. And Marty, lots of work in your big win today as our only speaker. And Eric and I qualified, and I think we voted for each other. It all worked out. Maybe we're a tie today. So the winners are everybody in that.
You're
in
the
that
winner.
sense.
You're the winner, Kate.
Yeah. I got you.
Uh-oh. And she won and froze.
Anybody got the
Yes,
winning
I don't know. I
tickets?
heard you say froze, Mike.
There you go. You're
There you
back.
go.
Okay, you're back.
Good. Yikes, I don't know what happened there. Marty, I see your hand is raised. Marty, do you have something for us, sir?
Yes, Kate. Your hairdo looks fabulous.
Thank you. That's short, huh?
I really
I was
like
copying.
it.
I was
It's short.
copying you. I was
It's
copying
short.
you.
I have to get used to that, but it looks
Me
great.
too. I don't recognize
It's,
myself on this camera. It's growing back at least. It stopped falling out. So
And the
that's
other
good.
thing,
Mary,
I just
Mary
wanted to
Tyler
let everyone
Morstetter.
know that Mark Crane wanted me let all of you know that he's not dissing any of us. He really likes the club. He's a very gregarious person, and I saw him at Tops last night. He said, "Marty," he goes, "I signed up for a speaking role," and I said, "Mark, that's great." And I was at work, so I said, "Mark, call me if you need any help. You know, I don't have my phone with me. Call me at the store number. I can walk you through whatever you need to do." And I feel bad that he didn't make it today and that he signed up. I don't know what happened, but shame on me for not following through when I didn't hear from him. And as a mentor, I'm lucky that Mark is still excited about Toastmasters. He really is excited, and he just wants all of you to know that for whatever reason, he loves the club, and I don't know what the sticking point was this morning. He's having a rough time with some medical concerns, but he's going away to visit his 2-year-old grandson, which is a wonderful thing, out of state. He's leaving today after his doctor appointment. But I just wanted to let everyone know that he did have a speech ready, and I regret not calling him. And I think as a mentor, I think it's a lesson we can all learn. As a mentor, I think we have to be careful not to push people, but and on the other hand, the flip side of it is the follow through is really important. Even if, oh, Mark, I didn't hear from you. Is everything okay? Or let me walk you through this and get your information on the website and the whole 9 yards. But hopefully, I know he'll be back. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it today. That's all. I just wanted.
Yeah, I saw his email, Marty, and I wouldn't beat yourself up over it. He definitely confirmed he was going to be here, but he couldn't make it, obviously, last minute for whatever reason. I wouldn't say
Yeah,
that
you shouldn't fall on that. You shouldn't fall on that sword, Marty. I mean, certainly we don't know what happened, but a text message, an email, it's all it takes just to give the Toastmaster a heads up.
Once
Thanks, Marty.
once
Thanks,
you're
Marty.
ready with your speech and you give the go that you're ready, I think as a mentor, you're completely off the hook. So
Thanks, Marty and Mike and Mark, about that encouragement for Mark. So he maybe even went to the Y. It's possible he didn't know it was on Zoom today. But that being said, we are back at the Y next week. And Carol, you're on standby. You are a Toastmaster next week. If you do know your theme, feel free to be able to share that this morning before we adjourn. And our speakers next week are lined up for Anne Marie and Jackie and Mark Campos. And we'll see how that works. If Mark is back from visiting his grandson, maybe he'll want to be there in person. I spoke to him too. He volunteered at Celtic in my area. So we chatted a little bit, and he, like Marty said, he'll be back, I think. And then I do see Gerald, your hand is up, Dr. Stevens.
I just wanted to mention that David Jones will be in person at AM Lockport. So if we could come out and support our North Carolina member. I know Kate, the officers talked about having a little bit of goodies possibly. See, like a
Yeah,
little welcome thing. That's next Thursday, correct?
yeah. So what I'm going to do now is it's 8:20. I think I'm going to adjourn the meeting and then anyone stick around to plan for that because I have some ideas. And that's 1 week from today, back in person when Carol is Toastmaster, October 12th. David Jones is in town. So we'll make a little day of it. And I will first adjourn the meeting and then do that as part of post Toasties. Any other announcements before we adjourn the
Yes,
meeting?
this
Nancy?
is, yes, I just wanted to say I could use a few more people for the DECA demo.
Gotcha.
No major roles, just some of the minor roles. And that's next week, Friday the 13th. And that will be our theme, Friday the 13th. I thought the teenagers would have a good time with that. David, unmute yourself first.
What time is that, Nancy?
8:20. Yeah, 8:20 or 25.
Okay.
I have some wonderful news. The boys at the Sunrise Optimist Club want to hook up with our DECA club. And I said, no, we got first dibs, but they want to persist and they want to award a scholarship to the DECA club. So if one of our officers wishes to attend a meeting at Tom's Diner at 7 a.m. any given Wednesday and tell those guys more about DECA and how they can help us, they're more than welcome.
So I have a question about that. I mean, DECA works with a lot of organizations in town. So maybe during post Toasties, we can talk about that too, like how we would be involved, etc. That sounds like a good collaboration. I can do that, Nancy. So if anybody wants to stick around about that too. So that's not tomorrow, but next Friday morning and doing our annual DECA demo meeting to show the new students how a meeting is run with the major roles. Thanks again, Mike. He's heading off to work. It's really far.
Off to
He's got
work.
a long way to go. It's gonna
Thanks
take a while.
again. Small crowd, but it was still a lot of fun. Thank you very much. And,
Thanks, Mike.
take care, everybody.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Any other announcements before I adjourn, or we can leave for post Toasties? Oh, Carol Ann, do you have a theme for next week, ma'am?
I do. It's going to be let's see, it's going to be William Pryor Letchworth and his park.
Wow.
William Pryor Letchworth and his park. Excellent. I love that. Sounds like a plan. All right. Well, then I will adjourn the meeting. Meeting is adjourned. It is 8:23 and